So we're here for Google Sheets, and I will say that Google Sheets is probably one of my favorite things. And you'll see that my target is not here for you, actually, but I'm doing this with second graders as well, something similar, but not exactly. So we can have a target, and I can understand what spreadsheets are and how they're used to organize data. Dominic, do you want to say anything about spreadsheets before I start?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with spreadsheets. So I'm going to ask, what do you do with spreadsheets and what do you think you would like to do with them? Just real quick.
Well, with spreadsheets, I outline my chapters.
Okay.
Do most people use Excel right now?
I use PowerPoint.
Well, between sheets and between sheets and
I
Excel.
use Sheets now.
You use
Okay.
Sheets? Okay.
I do my budget on it. I do,
Okay.
I do my own budget on it.
That's what I do
Okay.
as well.
And I make a formula and I.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the whole thing. I'm glad you said you made formulas, because the whole idea of spreadsheets is using it to make formulas. And I have in here just the definition of a spreadsheet is an interactive computer application for organization, analysis, and storage of data in tabular form. It just sounds good. One of my favorite things, and this is a resource that we won't go through thoroughly today, but gcflearnfree.org is one of my favorite things. I use it all the time for a lot of different things, but when you click on here, you'll see that it gives you Google Sheets, and it gives you an introduction. It's a lesson, step by step, so that it's anybody could do it. It gives you on that side there the table of contents. What I like about this on this first lesson, and I use this for my students all the time, this is my favorite part. So it gives you a spreadsheet, and you can find out the terminology. This is a row, and it gives, this is my favorite part. And it tells you what the things are. This way, as you're learning about using them, you can refer to this. This is just, I have it set up that it's just on the first, it takes you right to the first lesson. However, it tells you cell basics, what the cell ranges are, and things like that. It's a lot more, we couldn't get into this depth just in an hour. So that's why I added this. When you get to the bottom, there's a little activity that you could practice, and it tells you what to do to practice. And then it goes on to the next lesson. It tells you next modifying rows, columns, and cells. And I find this site very useful. Just as an aside, if you click on the home page, this actually gives you learning for all kinds of, not only tech stuff and Microsoft Office work and everything else, but also reading, math. You can learn how to do decimals, percent. So it's a really cool free site. You could use it with your kids if you need to use that. All right. So that's that part of it. I'm going to just open the spreadsheet, and I think that you all have access to this. This is just a blank spreadsheet. When you open it, just like Google Docs, it'll always come up as untitled. So you need to title your document, otherwise you'll lose it. Everything is named that way. So I'm just going to use this Google Sheets training. You'll notice that just like in Google Docs and everything else, you could see who has access to the page, and who's actually signed in. The share button is there. And the toolbars look almost identical to Docs. That's really nice because you don't have to learn a new system every single time. The biggest thing about spreadsheets is that they are in columns and rows. And you wouldn't actually just type in something in this as like a paragraph. You can, but it's not what it's for. Each one of these is a cell. It's organized by columns and rows. And the intersection of a row and a column is the cell. This is, you call this then B5, just like a math teacher. Help me.
Ordered pair.
Ordered pair, thank you. And when you're ordering the pairs, the horizontal letters come first, then the numbers for the columns. It's said in the definition in tabs, you can have several sheets and have different information on all the different sheets. Okay? Does that make sense so far?
So
Yes.
I would assume that most people use Sheets just for the back end of like Google Forms. Is that right? When you do Google Form, you get all the data at the end, and you export it to a Google Sheet. Is that most of the
I
time?
use it for that, but I also use it, we have the ACES keeps them watch lists for
Okay.
each grade level. So we have like students' names, birth dates, gender, their scores for all their fall testing, their winter
Okay.
testing, all that stuff. And we keep it in there so we can easily sort it however
Yes.
we want it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much what I was going for. That's perfect. So Sheets is really going to just be sort of like Excel, but if you've never really used Excel, it's really for data manipulation and organization. So whereas Docs is more about creating stuff, and PowerPoint and Slides is about creating data, Sheets is really about how are we going to take this data and make it easy to organize and modify it in easy ways, and that is using formulas. And you can see she has a whole bunch of formatting on this sheet right now. You can format things so like columns will stay in the same place as you scroll, so you always see those things, same as rows. That tutorial page that Maria has up on there has all that stuff that's in depth, but she'll go over obviously some of the stuff that she really likes using.
One of the things is when you're wanting to sort information, depending on what you're sorting, you want to make sure that you get all the fields that are connected. Because if you sort, say, this by column E, and you want to, column F, this is homerooms, homeroom teachers. So I might want to sort by homeroom teacher, but if I just sort this column, it's just going to sort the information in that column. So I want to sort the whole sheet. So when you want to do that, up here there's an FX bar. This is what shows what's in the contents of the active cell. The active cell is the one that you're actually working with at any moment. So here I clicked on K2, it's empty, so this FX bar is going to be empty. But if I click here in D1, the word Lorraine is there. That's why it's showing. Now if I wanted to edit that cell, I would have to click in the FX bar and make the adjustments there. And then I could just type it in, press enter, and then it would stay. Okay? But if I want to sort the entire page, let me get rid of this column. So I want to sort everything on this page according to student's last name, which is column D. When you want to select everything on a sheet, you would just click here. You'll notice that all the columns and all the rows are highlighted or are grayed out. That means you've selected everything, not just some of them. And then I can right click here and I can go to sort. Would it be better if I showed everybody on their computers, or is that okay? Yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay, so all the columns, the grade, and the rows. One of the things about spreadsheets is there's no limit to the data that you can put in here. So you can keep on going and adding columns until forever, and the same thing with the rows forever. So this means that I have all the rows and columns, the whole sheet is selected. So when I'm ready to sort, I would go back up here. After I click in there, everything is gray. Then I would right click, and it brings a menu, and I can go to sort range. Here I could decide what I want to do. I've limited this page to 1,000 rows, only because I didn't need more than that. This does not have a header row. I do not have a header on this one. So I want to sort by column column D, which is the student's last name. And then I could go by the first name as well. I could do as many parameters as I want. So I could do last name and then first name, which is C. I could choose A to Z or Z to A. It's either one or the other. Most times you're probably going to go with A to Z, unless you're doing statistics of some type that you want the highest. So now you can see that the students' last names are in alphabetical order. You'll notice that some of these are not though. This one right here, because there's a space in front of that. You don't see it, but I can tell you that in that cell there's a space. So spaces, whenever you're sorting something on a spreadsheet, if you leave a space, that's going to put it to the front of the list. Just like your email, if you do certain things and you sort stuff, it's going to do that. If you put a number there, it's going to go first. And then it'll go after it gets into the alphabet, and then everything else is alphabetical. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
I got this data from a Google form. And these are the date stamps. I keep the date stamps here. For those of you at Hill School, this is the information from the Million Minute Challenge. So I use the date stamps to tell which week the student's information is going into. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Any questions about that? Okay. You can either make the spreadsheet from scratch or import it from somewhere else. So if you're using the data from forms, you're going to get that information. But if you want to make your own, say you're making a grade book, you can close that window now. I think it's probably aired out enough. So if I wanted, say I wanted to make a grade book for the third quarter of the school year, I can write, it's not third quarter, it's third trimester. I could click in a cell, and this is my active cell, type in student first name. To get to the next cell, you could use the tab key, or you could just move it with the mouse and click in it. And then I could do. You'll notice that it cuts off because the column is too small for the words. So what you could do is you take your mouse and hover over the column up at the top, and you can just drag it over and make it bigger or smaller. Another thing you could do is if you want everything changed, again, you can click here. I can make them all smaller or all bigger. And they would make them equal. Okay. Then I could put like assignment, name, or grade. I guess it would be the assignment, name, and grade. This is good if you're doing retakes. You can have the same assignment with, and then you can have a column for version 1, 2, 3, or whatever, however you want to use that. Have I lost anybody, or, okay. Or should I'm trying to think of, so far, does this make sense? Okay, what do you think you need next?
So I'm trying to think of ways you guys can use this in your lessons.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
Are you planning to use it in your lessons or for your own personal? That's what I think I'm trying to get at. So are you trying to use it to teach your students something or to use it for your own personal benefit? Your own personal. Okay. So if you're using it for your own personal benefit, then this is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be making probably the spreadsheet from scratch. There's one thing that I use, and I track all my students' information for such things as going to the bathroom, being late for class. They go to the bathroom a lot, my kids. So I'm going to show you that one that I've done to give you an idea of what you could do on a personal basis. So I have my student notes. What I've done is I set up here I keep this form all the time. This is my instructional student notes. You could do this for assessments. for notes that you take when you're monitoring students. So I created first a form, and I have the date, the homeroom teacher's name, the student's first name, last name, issue, concern, and their grade. When I use it, then I fill in all this information, and this is what I end up with. You'll notice I have the timestamp, the date, all the information goes right in here. This makes it really nice, and I think I talked to a couple people, the counselors I guess it was, about trying to keep notes this way. So now I know I can go into it and I can find a student's name. Late for class. Mr. Coleman, can I use you?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna sort this by homeroom teacher's name, which is, I have the data header. And well here, this I have the data, so now what happens is if there is a header, you're gonna see this here, and it's gonna actually say what's there. If you don't have that, then you won't, then you'll have to pick out the letter. But we're gonna go by homeroom teacher's name. And I will do A to Z. So now I can look at Coleman, and you'll see here Coleman's class.
Lead the class.
I'm picking on you since it takes 2 seconds for me to record that information, but then when a parent calls me 3 weeks later and says, on the 21st, this child, came home crying, I can go back and see what the heck I was thinking, because I have no way of remembering that. So, this really works, and he did get lost, he went, I don't know where. It also helps with other things, especially anybody that works with special ed kids. When you have those things that later on, Patrice at Hill does, she'll ask you for information, notes about a student. It really helps when you can give them concrete information. So this is one of the ways I use this.
I don't understand how you got that form from different dates to go into one spreadsheet.
Okay, so it is a Google form, and I created this.
How do you do that?
Okay, so what you do is you go to anywhere you want, and when you say new here, I'm just going to go, I'll go there. And it says more, and you create a Google form. You can make tests for this. You can have the kids, you can actually give them the link and have them take tests this way. It has a grading, it can self-grade as well. So what you do is then create your form with the information you want. Anybody want me to make them a form? If you want to give me information?
I think you want to know how you got that information from the form into the sheet. Yeah, so
Okay.
just go to your other form, and you can show
Go
them
to
the
the one you
responses.
already made.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and go to the responses tab
Thank
on
you.
one. So when someone fills that form out, or if you filled out yourself when someone leaves your class or something like that, on the top you'll see questions and responses has that number next to it. As soon as you click that, you'll see a green little package that looks like a Christmas present, sort of, and that's the Sheets icon. As soon as you click that, it creates a sheet with the data that's been collected from the form, and that's how she got all that information there.
But she's using that same form on different dates, so it will keep
Correct.
sending it to
Yes.
the same sheet.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. There's
It
no.
looks like it stays live, right?
Yes.
Unless you make it unlive, we're dead, or
Yeah. Or
inactive, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
you make it
Live
dead.
For example, at Hill School, we have an after-school club that I had registration for, and it was Bootstrap World. And I had in here this one. It's now closed, so somebody can get this link, but it's not taking responses anymore. So what you would do is, how did I do it, Dominic?
Is this an add-on?
No. There it is.
Well, you can manually turn it off yourself, or
Yeah,
you
how
could
do I
have
do
it
it?
turn off
It's
after a
fine.
certain amount of responses.
Yes, you could do that.
Did you use Form Eliminator?
No. I went in there and stopped them this morning, as a matter of fact. Oh, here it is. It's in the link. I think. It's not active anymore, I know that.
Maybe that's why you can't.
Is it on
Maybe
that
inactive
gear at
again.
the top? The little gear?
Here it is, it's a shareable link, it's link sharing off, I'm sorry. So once that link sharing is off, nobody else can access it anymore. So that's what you would do. Automatically, by default, it's open when you create the form. But now I didn't want any more of these, so I turned it off. And that's how often I turn them off. You could tell because I don't know how to get back to it. But you can have the choice of opening, and then you would have the link here, or you could just close it.
Now, can you only import data to a sheet from other Google apps? Like, does it have to be from a Google form, or can you start a sheet from something else?
Yes, you can. You can import it as a CSV file. So say you have
It won't go.
grade book from somewhere.
Yeah, we limit that, just in case.
Do you mean from somewhere else, like where?
I don't know where I mean.
So you
Okay.
can, you can.
Like from
I'm just asking, does this only work to import from other Google?
So if you have an Excel
um,
file and you want to put it to Sheets, or if you have, are you thinking of like Encourse?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Yes, you can import it as from.
Because that's the biggest thing is that Encourse, like the grade book closely resembles what you can do with Sheets, right? You can
Yes.
sort of have columns with grades and have that data over a period of time. Obviously, Encourse is where you have to put that information in, because Sheets doesn't connect to your grade book. But if you want to take that data out of Encourse, is that what you mean?
I don't know
Export
what I
to
mean.
Excel.
Yeah, you can export to Excel. Anything you can export to Excel can go to Sheets.
Okay.
If that helps. So just because you download it as a Microsoft Office document doesn't mean you can't put it into Google format. And if you want to go the opposite way, you can as well. So if you make if you make a form for your class and you want your students to fill out the survey, and you get this information in Google Sheets, and then let's say you have to upload it to your I have an archive drive.
Okay.
You can take that from a Sheets file into an Excel file and upload it.
Now, can you take the information from Sheets and have it visual, like
As like a
bar
graph?
graph? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was going to bring up. I think the biggest thing, I've seen this happen in some classes, and you know, I bring up my wife a lot because she's a teacher in 5th grade. So she uses graphs within Sheets. So if you have data, so you can have a problem for your kids saying, especially for math, this is great for math, you have a word problem that has a menu maybe, and someone orders this, calculate the total of their menu, or of their order item, and then calculate the total of the that you made in your shop that day. So you might have a couple columns with some a hamburger cost this much for this person, and they ordered 3 of them, calculate all that up. Now you want to see how much did Frank buy, how much did Joe buy, how much did Sue buy, and put that in a graph, a pie chart, or a linear chart, or a bar graph, something like that. So Maria's sort of going over it now. I don't know if you missed.
I did.
I'm sorry.
I
So-
I wasn't looking at this.
No, I was looking for it and I just lost
Okay.
where I was.
So you can definitely do that,
What do you
and that's one of the
Um,
bigger things.
You're going to go to Insert, and you're going to go to, happens to be a chart. And then here in the chart, this is the new chart editor. It just looks a little different since you didn't know before, it's not going to make a difference. But it's showing you what it's using. I'm not using all the columns, it's whatever I clicked on.
Yeah, so you can see she has C highlighted
Mm-hmm.
at the top, so she's only using the data in that column. So let's say, and you'll be able to choose your X and Y axis of what they're going to be. So before we even get to the chart, do you guys know how to do like sums of money or of totals? Doesn't have to be money, could be numbers. I know if you use it for your bills at home like I do, then that's like the biggest thing. So especially like lunch count numbers, I think they use this in the main office, or cafeteria does, where you send down your lunch count number and you have, all right, this class has 12A, 12B. I want a total of all the B's at Stratton or Hill. So anything you want to do a function with mostly starts with equals, right?
Yes.
So if you type equal into any cell, you'll immediately get a pop-up, I believe.
It's a question mark, and it's a blue
Yeah.
box.
There it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So-
Can you say it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my eyes
You want
are
me to make it a
terrible.
little bigger?
Tiny.
Yeah, my eyes are horrible.
Is that better?
So the equals is the start of any formula. So as soon as you do that and you type just one letter, you'll get a ton of formulas that associate with that letter. You can add, subtract, but the biggest thing if you're doing like a sum would be sum. So equals sum, and then you select the cells that you want to do. So let's do,
I want to put some data in there.
yeah,
first?
just put some fake numbers in A and B, and then we'll calculate into
So-
C, just to show.
We'll say that our student, the numbers, we have 10 kids, say, you can do this, and I can pull this down, and it should, no, it's not doing it. Why isn't it doing that?
Doing,
It should fill in the number.
you have to have
Couple numbers
3,
listed.
yeah.
1, 2, 3.
And then you highlight 1, 2, and 3.
That's right, and then you pull.
And then you pull.
There you go. So we have 9 students, and we're gonna put in, what do you want me to put in the second column?
It's just to show them how the sum total works. It doesn't really matter what the number is right now. This doesn't have to just be a math problem. You can use this with other stuff. Math is the easiest way to visualize, I think, first, especially when you're doing graphs. But you could do this with a reading assignment as well, if you wanted. I'm sure you could figure like a passage in a book. Try to find if they're learning parts of a sentence or something, you can break that up into, in this sheet, list how many subjects you find in this sentence or something like that. I couldn't do that to save my life, which is sad.
So this actually gives me a selection that I could suggest it on the data in the base there. So it's gonna give you B10, 2 through 10.
So what it's
Okay.
pretty much asking is, what data do you want me to calculate together? So the yellow dot summarizes, these are the cells that we're going to add together. When you hit enter, I'm going to add all these numbers up and put it in that cell. You're not going to see equals sum anymore. You're going to see the total of that number. So when she hits enter, you'll see whatever that is, 583 and 65 cents.
One of my
that
second
was
graders
funny.
today was playing with sum, and he didn't believe it was right. He thought it was
Here's
coming
the
out
problem.
randomly. So he asked me for paper and pencil, and he sat there for a while trying to figure out if it was right or not, and it was right. You will get errors, obviously, if you leave one out. You have to make sure that you highlight what you want to be included.
Yeah, so that's a good way to just get your base data. So now you can do like a graph of those 2 first columns of student first name and student last name. Let's say they were lunch total or something like that. You do a chart and you'll get that chart of that data. And you can choose, and you can see on the right side, I know it's a little big right now, on the right side of the chart editor, everyone can sort of see it says,
Sorry.
go back to the editor.
That's not one. I have to go back and insert.
And you can see on the right side of the screen it says chart type line. So if you hit that drop down, it gives you a ton of options to change that to. You can do bars. I think you can do pie charts, and we won't get into it now. But who here has heard of pivot tables? No one. Then
We don't need to worry
no
about it.
one. Just forget I said anything about pivot tables. I use Inception. But that's a big, and pivot tables are a big thing in Excel. I know Lorraine uses them a lot for on-course.
Scatter for the older grades. They
So
do
you
that
could
in
always-
sixth grade? Scatter
Yeah.
programs?
And you could always put this, like if you make a chart, let's say you're doing lessons for the kids in class, you can make this stuff for you ahead of everything. So you make a graph and then you work backwards as a problem that the kids have to figure out. And you can use a form. So let's say, Maria, just to go back on moving from sheets to forms, let's say you make this graph of lunch orders or a restaurant order. A big thing that we did in college was airline tickets. So it was seats, and the money on seats was one when you're coding. So you can actually put this as a question in a form. You put this graph in as question one, how many students selected A? And as they input it, you'll get their responses on that form, and then you can open up another sheet and you see what are the kids' answers based on what you put in there as your graph. And then you can check it off, and I know we talked about this in other lessons, but we have add-ons that do automatic grading, forms do automatic grading, but you can do some add-ins there. So I don't want to go too far if you miss the add-ins one.
So Rachel, if you were thinking of are you fourth grade? So
Yeah.
you have Chromebooks now.
Yes.
So you could actually, if you're doing a lesson on graphing or something, or anything for that matter, statistics, you can have you could set up a form where your kids order their lunch and take your attendance from there. And then you can look at the data, and then you can actually have them manipulate it as well.
Okay.
As a lesson.
Okay, how does Harker do lunch count? Do you guys email
No, we use Encore.
Encores? Okay.
One of the things that's in the presentation after this one.
Hopefully that answered somewhat of your question.
It did.
I'm hoping that it kind of just sparks you guys to see like, oh, this is what I can use in class. There's so much to do in Sheets. I don't want to. I mean, we could spend hours on this stuff because they kind of all intermingle. You can use a Google form to create a choose your own adventure that involves Sheets, slides, and Google Earth and Google Expedition, which is their VR thing, which they have now, which you can do like a VR assignment where they travel. It gets really intertwined. So once you start rolling with one idea, we're hoping these trainings just kind of go into other stuff. Yeah, the VR stuff sounds pretty cool. You can set up like trails for them, like pre-made trails. So if you want to do, I'm trying to think, like the Oregon Trail is a big game when I was growing up. So you could do the Oregon Trail, and using Google Maps, you can plan out their course, and they kind of travel with you in VR. It's really cool. So there is a lot of cool stuff. So we're hoping that this sparks your interest. I know there's a lot of content, but really you can do a ton of stuff with the data. And the big thing is you can make charts. You can use formulas, which really help with just making your life easier. So you're not going on like like an accountant on a calculator, like punching in all the numbers and hitting enter. It'll do it for you. You just select the column and boom, that's everything.
Some of the things that I like, especially getting the kids to use it, are lessons with integrating different content area. One of the things I'm doing right now with 6th grade is they're doing Pi. We did some activities with Pi, P-I, not P-I-E, but they all think they have to write about Pi. But we combined Pi Day, the idea of the actual function of Pi, and then writing poetry for April. So we had combined two things. So they're writing Pi Day poetry. And I can show you how they did some of this. The ideas are not mine, I will tell you, that I steal everything. And I have a couple sources that are excellent to steal ideas from, and they don't mind you stealing. It's not stealing if you borrow it and give credit. But so the one activity we did is a Pi Day sample, and this is an introduction to get the kids able to actually manipulate, like I was showing you, making columns wider, narrower, adding content into the spreadsheet, highlighting and shading, and having information. So in this, they merged these two, the section of cells, and they entered the data, then they shaded this. So the numbers, the digits of pi are down the left side, and I brought them down to 35. Each empty cell here represents the letters that they're going to be writing for that line of the poetry. So their poetry is going to have three letters, 1, 4, 1, 5, 9. And it's funny because I said, kids, some of them have done such great things. They're not done yet, and they're still working on it, but it combines language, it combines content and topics, staying on topic, because what they're doing is they had to pick a topic, and now they have to find words that fit into the puzzle. and I'm calling it a puzzle because that's exactly what they did. They're searching for 9-letter words, 4-letter words. So you have to be careful with the 4-letter words because other words come up. But that's okay because that's digital citizenship getting thrown in there, and they're learning that they have to acknowledge that those words exist, however they shouldn't use them. One of the things I've seen with the classes, and I'm doing this in all 12 6th grade classes, is that the kids want to start at that first word. And I said, think about it, and so you can do extended thinking on this. You can't start with the 3-letter word necessarily because the just doesn't work. So they have to think of their topics, and I said build around the bigger words. Find your topics. Somebody did horseback riding, and she did such a great job. She's not done it yet, but she started with horseback, bareback, all those different words that went into saddle. She put those words in first, and then she started connecting them. And then she said, I have to rearrange them. Can I add more digits of pi to make it make more sense? So there's a lot of complicated activity in here, but I'm teaching them how to, which is my main, I guess, target, is to use the spreadsheets. They're using it in a non-traditional way here. That was a lot of fun. Eric Kurtz, his name is down here, Control to Alt Achieve, is one of my favorite places to get information, especially lesson plan ideas, and I have it somewhere here. This one.
Yeah, so you can import like templates.
Yes.
Sort of
Now-
like Teachers Pay Teachers. I don't know who uses that for some lessons. So it's similar. You can just Google Google Sheets templates, and there's other teachers that have made stuff that you might want, and you just say like add to your account, and it just imports it right into your Google Drive.
Now, Eric Kurtz, he will allow you to download the actual template. So this, wherever I was, Pi Day Poem format, I downloaded it from him first, but I had the kids actually create it from scratch. The reason is because my target was to have them learn how to manipulate spreadsheets. So they were able to do that through the instructions I gave them without the template. But if you were in a shorter time, or if your primary concern was getting the poem written, then you can give it to, or your special ed as you're differentiating. Some of my special ed kids, I wasn't really concerned with them manipulating everything, so I gave them word lists. You can differentiate a million different ways. But with Control, he gives you the directions. This is a really good site. I mean, at least in my opinion. Also, I gave you 4 creative ways to use Google Sheets in the classroom. Ed Tech Teacher. Sometimes I find good things here, sometimes not so much, but it's rubrics and things like that that you could use.
One thing I will suggest you guys do is join. I don't know if anyone's gone into the Google group world, but you guys can go to Google Groups and join like New Jersey teachers, Google New Jersey teachers, and it's a group of just teachers all over the state that pass ideas and like, hey, what do you guys use for an app in math class? What do you guys use for sheets on this or anything Google related? And they just pass information. So there's a tech one that the 4 of us use a lot. There's an administrator's one that I think the principals use. So I would definitely suggest you guys maybe researching that and joining. It's a free thing, and then you can maybe get some ideas on how to do some cool stuff with Google. Because really these are just sheets, slides, and Docker, just the same thing as Office, right? It's just in the cloud now. Well, we want you guys to not only just replace it. I know this is I forget the acronym. But we don't want you to just replace what you're doing, but enhance what you're doing with Google. So I can't tell you what to do because I'm not a teacher. You guys are trained on this stuff. I'm trained on the tech side of stuff. I can help you learn stuff and work through you if you have issues on how do I do this. But as far as coming up with the content ideas, we want you guys to really just, what can I do, and we're going to help you get there.
I don't know how many people use Twitter, but I didn't like Twitter originally, several years ago. Now I really like it. one of the things I find is if you follow the right people, what you get is information that you want. Which seems like common sense, but it took me a while to find the right people, I guess. But I follow quite a few people that are the tech advocate, and on any given day I go through here and I see all these ideas that I could do in the classroom. I wish I had time and the ability to use all the ideas I get. But there's another thing too, like, so if you want to follow me, or look at my site, you can always see what I have. Another option is go to, and what I do in TweetDeck is you can sort them by hashtags. So now I can go to, what I do is I save a lot of things under SWSD teacher tools. Richard Burns, another guy that gives you great ideas on lesson plans and other information. I have another one.
So who has, now that you know, I mean, you guys know what Sheets is. Is there anything specific that you think you would want to use in your class, or personal? So personal use, what would you guys use Sheets for? Just curious.
I was just thinking, can we pull the star data and put it into a sheet?
That's a good question. I don't actually have an account to Star,
Okay.
and I wish I did. I don't have a lot of accounts to this. Star, Renaissance, I barely have an account for.
Mhm.
I can unlock people.
That's funny.
That's pretty much it.
Connect
So-
won't, right? We went
Well,
through that.
EdConnect was very tricky. We
Ed,
finally
Yeah,
figured it out, but it was such a process, but
Right.
Yeah, so
probably not
that's-
gonna have it anymore, so what's the point?
yeah, that's a whole nother. So yeah, that's a great question, because a lot of the stuff you guys have tons of assessments and accounts. It's amazing. So I don't have access to all that stuff,
Mhm.
so I wish I could tell you with definite answer. I'd have to look at Lorraine. Lorraine and Joel have like and Dana and Scott have like the main accounts.
Mhm.
So I'd have to look with them and see what we can do there. But that would be a great question. So we can always work with you if you want to
Yeah.
get together to
Like
prep
just
or.
like pulling all this, the testing data we have, you know, and
Mhm.
putting it into there and then manipulating it would be what I would like want to
Yeah,
use it for.
really you just want to make your life easier as
Yeah.
far as all the, because you guys get so much data now. And now everyone wants to be data driven. And you know, everyone wants to be data driven.
Mhm.
And your job is to collect this data and get it for people to see, not like just numbers everywhere, but readable
Right.
data.
Exactly.
So that's a really good question. I'm sure we could do it as long as they allow us to export it out.
Mhm.
That would be the biggest thing. And I don't know what their interface looks like.
Right, and because
Um,
for us to get it, it's always in the form of a report, which is a PDF.
Yeah.
So-
So that was my
Mhm.
why I didn't want to say yes, because
Yeah.
PDFs are just
Yep.
that's like the end of the line
Yeah.
unless you have Acrobat, but
I was
That's a
thinking
site
for park
license.
too, because like specifically the accommodations sheet,
mhm.
I can look and see who has what accommodation, but it's not listed in any order that really
Park
makes
is-
sense to me. So like trying to read that, it makes me.
We were talking about
crazy.
this today. We feel like when they made the Park interface, and you guys know when you have to select your students to start a session, it's like 6 clicks to get a session started. It's amazing. It's like they sat down and they just thought like, what's the most pain in the neck way to do this? Let's do that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense. So that's another Star. Is Renaissance another one, or is that the same as
That's
Star?
the same thing.
The Star. Okay. I always get Connect Ed, Star, Renaissance. It's like, oh my lord.
Yep.
I get confused. I don't know how you guys manage all this stuff. And we used to have Study Island, and we used to have Reading A to Z, and what's the other one? Raz Kids, Brain Pop. There's so many, and all those websites, even the free ones you guys go to, Class Mojo or Class Dojo. There's another one that's big. All those free sites where you guys make usernames for your students. That's all data. That's all data that can be used for you guys for your, your not IEPs, your admin archive. If you have to do something where you have to upload stuff, all that stuff is data somewhere.
Mhm.
So you should be able to get it out. Really, if you sign up for a website and you can't get that data back, you might want to think about that again, because they're keeping your data. So like everyone knows the Facebook issues right now, right? Where they collected everyone's internet searches and for the past 17 years, whatever it was. Everyone's aware of this? If you're not, go Google it. It's amazing. They kept everything. Anything you did on your phone or computer with a Facebook account, they just stored without telling you, even though they said they did tell you. So I don't know if anyone is a South Park fan, but anyone seen the episode with the Apple agreement where they just say a yes? If you don't like South Park, then don't worry about it. But it sort of goes in that realm of, as long as everyone, I would assume most people have an iPhone, and you get a new update and it says, do you agree? And you're like, yeah, sure, why not? So it's sort of like that for Facebook. So that's a story. You should go off on another tangent. But all that data should be yours. Those are your students' numbers. You want that data back for your assessment. So we'll definitely look at Starfall. There's got to be a way. Accelerated math is part of that.
This is OnCourse. And I
Yeah.
see the fields for the accommodations. I don't know if they're accurate though or not. Do you know how they get to OnCourse? Because obviously if they're here, somebody must put them in.
The accommodations, I think those
Yes.
are manually
Yeah, I
uploaded.
think the child study team puts those in.
So are they
Yeah.
reliable? Because I don't.
As long as they're updated by the CSC department,
Yeah,
I
I
would
don't
say
know how
yes.
updated.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm assuming because we have park and they take that, information from there. I'm
Yeah.
assuming it's up to date, but.
Because if this is
Yeah, I think they've been
accurate, then
working
we
on
could
it.
get those accommodations
From
from
OnCourse?
from
Okay.
OnCourse, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's available there. I mean, it's listed.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm
I
trying
don't-
to-
I don't data entry, like sometimes,
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how we would get it from a PDF, because that's
Yeah.
going to be the roadblock we hit with a lot of stuff. Is oh yeah, you can take it, but here's a picture of it.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
So I want to manipulate this because I want to show the progress of the students from test 1, test 2, test 3, test 4. I mean, that's really what we want. We want to see our students' growth. We don't want to have just a picture of it.
Yeah.
And it needs to be instantaneous, not like, park data we get back, 7 months later. So that really helps you guys.
I just want to be able to sort, when I look at a student, I want to see all of Campbell's kids, I want to see all of Coleman's kids, but they're all mixed in together. They're not even in alphabetical order.
it's-
It's like, I don't even know what the order is. So
Um,
can I manipulate the report in some way, that I can at least view it from the report?
So that's a really good question and I don't mean to pass this off. I don't do a lot of stuff in Park either. I do a lot of the setup of Park.
Uh-huh.
That's a great question for Scott, Dana, and Joel and Lorraine.
Okay. All right.
Anytime you have a question about the data of stuff, those are the 4 people you should immediately think of.
Yeah.
Those 4 people do so much data manipulation, it's unreal.
I usually call Lorraine, I'm like, Lorraine. it's-
Lorraine does it all, I mean, that's what she does all day. She's
Yeah.
got 2 screens and it's just like on course and something else that's student information all day. So, those are really good questions. If you can get that into Sheets, that's
That would be
fantastic for you
helpful,
guys.
Yeah.
For any platform you guys are using. Because that's really the goal would be to get this into your grade book, right? I mean, you want to go from Starfall to OnCourse with a click of a button. That's really the dream that we're hoping will happen in the future. There needs to be some sort of adapter there, of course. And then it gets more confusing because we have like 17 things. So Ed Connect, Connect Ed, Starfall. It gets kind of Park has some. So it does get kind of confusing. I think there is change coming this summer. I think. I'm not particularly privy to those meetings, but I think there's change coming in form of one of those. So, or there's a pilot coming, I think. So Sheets can be really, really useful to manipulate data, but we don't want you to just, do exactly what you're doing in Excel, because really you can just do it in Excel, right? There's no benefit of doing it in Sheets, other than you're super cool and you're on the cloud now. But other than that, there's really no.
All your documents in one place.
Yeah. So, I mean, we want you to use that just in case there's a fire in this building. I mean, we have offsite backups, but you get the point. You have it at home as well. So if you want to do something at home, the next day it's in your Google Drive. But really, there's no difference other than that. If you bring in a flash drive and save everything to your flash drive, you're doing the same thing. So we want you guys to be able to use it in a way that will feel a little different. So if there's something you're thinking of that you want to do with forms, going from forms to Sheets, or even doing things that aren't digital and changing them to digital, would be something that we could use and import data into. I know Stratton's got iPads and Chromebooks, right? It's
Yes.
weird per classroom, and I don't know why, but so even like the iPads can get to the Google ecosystem. I know it's hard for the students to remember their birthday. That can be a
Now they
tedious
know
login to log in, and changing a user can be kind of tedious. But for 5th, 6th, 5th, and 4th, you guys have the Chromebooks. So just because you have the Chromebooks doesn't mean you should be limited to those apps. Any apps that you find, we can integrate into Sheets, I would say, most of the time, unless you get it as a PDF. So,
Programs like, I use typing.com, which I've used for years. I can import from there all their statistics, like all their tests and everything. So
yeah.
I import them there and I grade them through Sheets. That does it. There's quite a few different ones. Wiser Me, you can do that also. That's a quiz section, a quiz maker, giver, taker, I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't know how to talk anymore.
Manipulator?
But, yes, thank
Yeah.
you. You create the test in Wiser Me, they take it, it grades it, and then you import the scores.
Mhm.
And you have the information. You return it that way also. Even Google Classroom, you can create spreadsheets in there and data and export it to other places, right?
Yeah. You can pretty much do anything within Google. You can do anything from any other Google source. Yeah. Even Microsoft, we can take anything Microsoft you have and move it over, and vice versa. But typing.com, I was trying to think of that website. I know you used it.
Yes.
It's in. Are you still use typing.com?
Oh, yeah.
So I
For
knew you
free
guys
use
use
of
that.
it.
Yeah. So that's a good example of bringing data from a website that's not related to Google into Google for your guys' assessments. So that's really the the hope is that you guys can use the data you collect in a productive manner. You don't want to just have that data sitting nowhere, and then you put it in your report saying, hey, we did this as a class, but I don't have any data to back it up. That doesn't help you at all. So we're hoping that'll make your life a little easier, because I know you guys have to do a lot of data reporting. It's all data driven now. So that's really the goal, is to make your life easier.
This is a report that I can pull from typing.com. This is time tasks during the last month. So right here, it gives you an export. When you click export, oh, there it is.
It's down at the bottom.
It's down here. I can click open when done, or open when finished. I'm glad it didn't start doing that crazy thing again.
Yeah, side note, we reverted that back. So if you open a PDF now, it'll open in Chrome. If anyone was wondering.
It's going to take a little while. I think it's pretty big report. There it is. So it's opening it in Excel first, as an Excel spreadsheet. And then you would just click, just get it into Sheets. You could just click File, Save As.
You have that add-in. Most
Oh,
people,
most
yeah.
people don't?
Most people don't have an
Okay.
add-in. There is an add-in you can put into Office that'll save it automatically to Drive. If you want that, just send a ticket in and say like, hey, I would like this on my computer, and it's like a 4-second install.
The other option is just to save it to your desktop. And
Yeah, that's an easy thing. So if you want that, just let us know. That's a quick install.
And
And then anything you pull up in something other than will save as.
Yeah, so you can do. It's called the Google File Stream. I don't know. Does anyone have that here?
only on.
You two have it. Yeah. So you know how you guys have map drives. So like your H drive.
Yeah.
How many you have tons. Your Groups drive, your X drive. There'll be another drive that says Google File Stream, and then I'll have your My Drive and your Team Drive in it. So when you go to save, you just select that drive, and then it goes right to Google.
Really?
And you'll get a green check and it says, "Yep, you're in the cloud now."
It's just like a regular drive letter. So you don't have to go in the drive and keep downloading junk and have time for that. So it looks like
Yeah.
a regular And you can do team drive too, where you're working, collaborating with a group of people.
Uh-huh.
It's all in there.
Yeah, so if you want that, just let us know. That's,
Thank you.
you can push that out remotely, so you guys won't even, like,
I'm gonna give you back control of your
Notice.
computers because you guys are all logged in. There's a short task, not test.
Survey.
Yes, please. And it's just a real quick question in Google Classroom. If you don't mind going back to Google Classroom and answering it. It'll say at the top, probably show, because I added, it came in at 4 o'clock.
But yeah, if you guys have any questions,
So
you
yeah,
know,
you can just